how do you buy a house, particularly if you're like a first-time home buyer? What would you tell these people? And let's get into some detail about this.
Okay, Larry. Well, let me let's just start off with you need a buyer's agent to start off with. Okay, real estate has changed a lot in the last 20 years, and people just haven't really understand the process. Traditionally, the seller was always represented by the agent, and let's just talk about the seller for just a second. But when you go list your property, the seller would always hire an agent. The agent would come in, and he would do what we call CMA on the property, which would give them a market analysis of what the property was worth, and they would discuss how they wanted to sell the property, the price, the terms, things like this. Well, as time went on, we've seen the need for a buyer's agent, and the buyer needs the same help, let's say, as the seller. Mm-hmm. And as now the buyer needs someone to come in and basically do the same thing, do a CMA for him.
Now,
do
exactly
a
what
comparative market analysis
very good.
Of the property. Mm-hmm. This is going to show you what the other properties in the area have been selling for. Mm-hmm. Well, the purpose of this is the seller's agent has done the same thing. Now, the seller's agent, their job is to find them or find properties that have sold in the area, and they usually go to the upper end of it. And their job as an agent is to try to get the seller the highest price and the best terms possible. Well, the buyer's agent is exactly doing the same thing, but on the buyer's side. The buyer has an agent who's going to go in and do the same thing for him, except we're going to look at it from a different aspect. We're going to look at it from the buyer's aspect. And this way, we're going to try to get the buyer the most reasonable or lowest price possible and the best terms possible for them. That way you have somebody on both sides of the fence working for each person. And that's very important. And I think that's where people don't quite understand what's going on in the real estate market now, how important it is to have a buyer's agent. Mm-hmm. And that way you have somebody representing you at all times. And that's what you need. As far as a first-time home buyer, I think it's even more important for a first-time home buyer. They've never purchased a home, or they haven't purchased one in years. Mm. They don't really know the process. They need somebody to help them. And a lot of people go out and they drive around the neighborhood and they look at signs. When you call that person on the sign, you are calling the seller's agent. And I already told you what their job was, right? Their job is to try to get them the highest price and the best terms. Mm-hmm. What we need is the buyer needs to find him an agent, let that agent go to work for him, and try to get him the lowest price and the best terms.
And of course, that buyer's agent is going to help the client that they're representing.
Well, it's actually their client.
Exactly, their client.
Yes.
Find a house that meets their criteria for what they want to begin with.
Correct. It saves you a lot of time. Mm-hmm. You drive around looking at properties, and this, for example, you're looking for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, split bedroom arrangement. Mm-hmm. But you don't know anything about that property when you call the sign. It's a waste of time for the buyer. Mm-hmm. And if you go to the buyer's agent, you get an agent of your own, they're going to search the internet and find the properties that fit in your price range, the criteria you're looking for, and possibly to help you with the terms. And that's the whole ideal of it. So
it sounds like a big time-saving adventure, and it also protects you from maybe overpriced listing agents who are simply there to, as you said, get the best price for their client, which is the seller of the house.
Correct.
So it only makes sense if you are searching for a house, then it almost kind of reminds me of a correlation between, like in lawsuits and things, where if you go to a court case, you need a representative lawyer to help you. You don't want to just go in without any legal advice into a court case or something. You want to have proper representation so you can stand on the same level ground with the other party. Not that you're actually fighting with the other party in a home selling situation, but there can be a lot of money involved in a home sale as far as how much you have to pay for a house. Let's say you're a buyer, the seller wants to sell a house for, let's say, $220,000. You go in without a buyer's agent, talking to the listing agent, and you can offer him, let's say, without a CMA, as you talked about already to our people, you can offer him, well, I really don't want to pay $220. I want to pay just $215. What would happen in a scenario such as that, where you've got a buyer who has no representation, he's ignorant of CMAs and all the things you've already discussed, and he's simply dealing with the listing agent and the seller? What are we looking at in a scenario such as that?
Well, again, Larry, the seller's agent, their job is to try to get them full price for the property.
Okay.
So if you go in as go in and talk to the seller's agent, okay, and you say you want to offer less than the asking price, well, their job and their what we call fiduciary duty to their seller is to try to get them that full price. So again, if I was your agent, if I was the seller's agent, and you came to me wanting to purchase a piece of property,
Let's play that scenario out. Say you are this listing agent for a
Right.
$220 priced house, $220,000, and I come to you with no representation, no buyer's agent, without even any knowledge of a CMA, and I just say, look, I want to offer you less than what you're asking for. What would you do with a situation?
well, again, Larry, that's my job would be to try to get you, the buyer, to offer them full price.
Okay, so
That's
what you would
my
do,
job.
So what you would do is tell me, well, look, there's all these improvements in the house.
Or, yeah, whatever. Or I'd pull up the CMA that I did for the seller.
So you'd be showing me all this.
Well, see, the house is worth this. Okay. Now, legally, if he wants to put an offer in, if the buyer wants to put an offer in $115, I need to do that. Okay. But I'm going to try to get him to go full price. That's my job. You got to understand that's when you hire a listing agent, it's basically an employment agreement. And they have employed me to do exactly that, to market their property and try to get them full price. Okay? So that's my job, isn't it? So
Exactly.
when a buyer comes to me and is not represented by some agent of their own, my job is to try to get my seller full price. That's going to always be my job as a listing agent. But if you came to me with a buyer and you were a buyer and you talked to your agent, your buyer's agent, then again, they would sit down and do that CMA for you, and you would come up with a price. Let's say, like you said, $215. Okay? Then you would deal with your agent. Your agent would write that offer. It's not just the price. That's what a lot of people don't understand. There are probably 10, maybe 12 things that are negotiable on a contract. Closing dates, amount of earnest money, option money, number of option days. Well, all these is what you need your buyer's agent for. Because I'm sitting over as a seller's agent trying to get the most earnest money I can out of you, the most option money, the most number of days, the least number of days, in the option period. Again, I'm working with the seller. You need somebody on your side to help you write that offer. And again, the typical buyer does not understand all this. So that's the best thing to do. So, like I said, the original question was the process of purchasing a house. The first thing you need to do is go out and find an agent, one you're comfortable with, and make sure they're going to be working in your best interest. Because by far, the seller has one, don't they?
Oh, exactly.